So, hello guys, I'm Bree. I'm here with SideQuest
Okay.
Blogs, and today we have a very talented athlete here in one long distance for LSU, but who has a massive growth in his YouTube channel. We have Trenton Sandler here. So, welcome to the
Hey, thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to do this. I've been wanting to do one of these for a long time, and I'm a really big fan of your page too. I've watched literally every
Thank you.
single video that you put out,
Thank you.
and yeah, we're just gonna begin the interview. So,
Okay.
watching your Q&A video, I learned that you actually started running during your high school years after your competitive soccer career. Can you tell me why you transitioned over to running instead of sticking to soccer? Was that experience hard for you to make?
I stuck with soccer as long as I could. I actually played soccer all the way through till I couldn't anymore, I guess. I played my senior season.
Mhm.
Um, it was eventually really hard to make the decision to just shift all of my focus to track. Uh, but that just came out of the fact that I think I had a lot more opportunities that came out of track.
Mhm.
Um, the opportunities just weren't. I was trying in soccer. I was emailing schools. I was going to camps, and there were some kind of Division 2 NAIA opportunities, but just really wanted to go Division 1, and that came from track. So
Yeah, that's amazing. What position did you play in soccer? Can you tell me more
I
about
was an outside
your
back.
outside back? Nice.
Yeah.
As you're like one of the things that I really want to promote for my page is, how the impact
Hmm.
of sports has on people, right? I have a lot of my viewers, they're really young, maybe in their high school career and stuff like that. I wanted to ask you, since you had a background in soccer, did that background in soccer help you be successful in your track career?
Oh, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I learned from soccer was just like I'd say coachability,
Mhm.
which is honestly, it's one of the most important things that happens in track that I think a lot of people don't actually have. Is just when coach says go do weights, you go do weights. In soccer, it's very like hammered down on you of you do what the coach says when he says it and just get it done. And in track, you can really see the difference between people who have kind of just grown up their whole life running and now they run track, and people who kind of came from other sports backgrounds is who has that coachability and who doesn't.
Amazing. That's very, impactful. And, I've been have been asking every athlete I've been interviewing and content creator about their mental health.
Okay.
We know that mental health is a stigma within not only sports, but within, our whole entire lives. And even for a college athlete, I wanted to talk to you like I would love to understand what has been your experience like with mental health. Any tips and advice on maintaining your mental health, especially as a decorated athlete and a content creator? Does it get overwhelming?
Uh, yeah, I mean, stuff definitely gets overwhelming sometimes, especially I think just being a student and athlete is it's definitely doable. But when you start factoring in stuff like content, it really makes it's a very, very full plate. And there's sacrifices that you have to make. And yeah, I guess it can be kind of hard sometimes, but that's why I love it. I love to be busy. And when I do find it difficult, I just have to take a step back and realize that I put all this on myself. No one's forcing me to make content. No one's forcing me to like try to go run at the highest level and still get good grades, and just take a step back and look at it in the bigger picture. And yeah,
Yeah. And are there any tips that you would like to tell the audience and the viewers that you do?
uh, definitely it's important. I mean, I've always said there's like three things people want to balance. You want to balance school, like social life, and track or your sport. Um, and it's you can kind of only be really successful at two out of the three. Like you can't get good grades and run really fast on the track and go out and party every single weekend. Like you can't have all three. You're always going to be sacrificing one. Um, and I think that it's important to try to work because obviously we need to be successful on the track. That's why we're here. And obviously school is ultimately most of our futures. So it's important to prioritize those two, but try to work your social life into those two so that you're enjoying yourself at practice, you're enjoying the people in your classes and finding ways to connect with other people through your priorities like track and school.
And that's like really important. And that's what, people don't understand like about being a college athlete, right? So we have the expectations versus reality. They always think like, oh, that's a great title. What has something that you've learned that when you gone to Division 1, as something as a school that's like competitive as LSU,
Hmm.
what is something that you've brought, into like your view, like, oh, this is how I'm gonna like live now, and this is, the sacrifices that I'm gonna make.
Um, Definitely waking up early. I'm always gonna get up early for the rest of my life, probably. If you're talking like specific things that I've learned, that's definitely one of them. I didn't think I was gonna be a fan of morning practices, but you start getting used to getting up at 5:36, 6:30 when you do it a ton and never want to look back.
Amazing.
I'm not sure if that's really what you're looking for with
Oh,
that question,
it's
but
all good. It's all good. And right now, I want to like, okay, we talked about your mental health and we talked about your time, just your intro. I want to go into like your personal life and on a platform of like where our audience don't really understand you. So we see you're making content for your track page, you're making content for your Instagram page, but and I think you touched this on one of your intro videos, but what are you studying here at LSU? And what has your overall experience been like at LSU?
yeah, of course. I'm a kinesiology major. That's concentration in human movement science, which is just kind of, I guess for anyone, a lot of people don't really know what that is. It's pre-physical therapy. So I'm learning science of how we move, why we move, and how we can improve how we move. And then I hope to graduate and go to 3 years of PT school after college. And my experience here at LSU so far with that's been great. Um, I
Mhm.
mean, no complaints
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah, and that's like really important too. Like, did you prior to your, your decorated, athlete career, did you want to get into kinesiology just because you want to learn more about your body? What made you want to transition into that major?
Well, I started off wanting to be an engineer.
Mhm.
I wanted to go into engineering, and then I realized I do not like math.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I grew up like tinkering and stuff with everything in my garage and building stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be an engineer. And yeah, I just realized how much math is actually involved in that major, and I said no, thank you. And then I got hurt in high school, and I was put into PT for my own injury, and I was like, I really enjoy this. Like they're saying things and they're talking about how I can fix this for the future, and I think that I could see myself doing this. So
Amazing. And what is Trenton Sandler off the track and off YouTube? What do you love to do in your free time that if you ever have any free time?
yeah, I was gonna say I don't have a lot of free time. Um, I've been playing a little Xbox lately.
Yeah.
That's trying to reconnect with friends from back home. But yeah, I don't have a ton of free time. I do really like videography, and that I guess that kind of falls into the content bucket. But that's why I got into content in the first place was because I liked videography and I liked um I really liked editing, to be honest. I didn't ever see myself too much being in front of a camera because I just liked editing, but then I was like, well, what am I going to edit? I guess I'll make my own videos to edit. So
Yeah.
I do in my free time take videos sometimes, trying to work on short films, but that's
Hey, that's a great,
don't have much time.
yeah, as a someone in the film, as a film major,
Yeah.
that's something that's so important, right? Like one of the things that I've learned is that, and that's the whole reason I started this blog page is because
Hmm.
yes, there's a film aspect to it, but you could like literally pull anything you love and create into something, um,
Yep.
meaningful, impactful. And this is really inspiring that you said that because you're an athlete here, and I wouldn't assume like an athlete can make films, but you're over here making YouTube videos that are really impactful and really inspiring. So that's what I really wanted to go into, and I'm gonna dive into that. So we're gonna dive into your YouTube and
Okay.
content creating style now. So as something that I wanted to point out and reach out is that I really, as someone like just scrolling around YouTube, I was also a track athlete, and one of your videos showed up,
Yeah.
and then I clicked on it, and I was just in awe with your style, like your editing style, your shots, and I did want to say like for because you like Or is it like something you learn along the way or you grow to gain experience? Or because I literally like believe like your first video was already cinematically like put together. So did you have a background within, creating things? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I don't know how cinematic I'd say my first video was. If I go back and look and compare that, I mean, at the time it felt really good, but comparing it to what I can make now through like the repetitions, I definitely question that first video.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have a bit of a videography background. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I really liked it. I remember my friend and I would always make like I don't know if I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with iMovie,
Yeah.
but back in the day, we would have those templates on iMovie where it would tell you like insert a tense video here
Yeah.
and insert a calm video here. And my friend and I would just take random videos like that and we'd plop them in the templates and boom, we had a cool little trailer. And then eventually we started making little mini YouTube videos with my friends. And in high school, I formally got photography lessons, or actually a class in photography for 2 years. And then I took the next class up, which was broadcast on videography. And that's when I really started learning how to use a camera. And I had a teacher who really was really passionate about it and got me really passionate about it. Started putting together some kind of short film stuff. I have actually, I think if you look up on YouTube like Trenton Sandler films, I
Mhm.
have a second channel where I just have my whole like high school archive uploaded. I think that was kind of for my own personal thing, but I think some people have found that. Um, but yeah, that's where I got my start in cameras and stuff. And then I bought a camera just last year, and then I sold it, and then I bought a new one. And I was trying to sell that one. I bought a new one again.
Yeah,
I just like it
that's
a lot.
it's really inspiring. So that's like one of the reasons like I wanted to ask you, like, why did you want to start a YouTube channel? Did you ever believe that your channel would have this many like growth and followers?
Yeah. I mean, part of it was I just really enjoyed the videography of it. Part of it was I always I mean, I always liked YouTube. Like I said, my friends and I would make little YouTube videos back in the day, um, like will it smoothie, and then we'd put like Oreos and ice cream in it and be surprised that it made a good smoothie. Um, but yeah, I I just always really enjoyed videography, and I realized that I've I always wanted to be able to put videos out there. And then I realized that I have the opportunity now where I always thought, oh, no one's gonna care about my life. No one's gonna care if I am filming whatever. And then I realized I actually have the opportunity now and I actually there's people who want to be in my shoes and that's something that I can record and finally put my passion into. And then seeing how it grew, I don't know if I'd say surprised
Mhm.
because I can't, I hate to say I was kind of expecting it, but that's just because I kind of put effort into TikTok first and I got to see TikTok grow. And then once I did that, it went onto YouTube. And at the end of the day, it just feels like numbers at a certain point.
Yeah.
But then you start seeing the comments and the people that are like real people and they're really appreciative and that starts to feel real and that starts to feel really good. And you're like, I don't know how I grew to this point where there's people who are actually excited to see my content and excited to run because I put out a video. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And like you said, like you never expect you kind of saw it, but like for every social media content creator and stuff like that, you don't really it's not like you focus on it, you kind of focus on like the material that you're putting
Mhm.
out and stuff like that. And as an athlete, you're still an athlete, like you're yourself. You're still making content, yes, but as a hobby more of. And I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, does it ever like does your growth and does your like kind of content creator head come to you when you're on the track? When you're like before the gunshot got before the gunshot, before you take off, does it ever like do you ever get other people you're competing with come up to you and be like, hey, I watched your YouTube channel and stuff like that? And does that ever
Mhm.
get to you on the track?
That's a good question because that's the reason I don't film every single race.
Mhm.
Um, I yes and no. It's I've had I mean, several people come up to me before races, after races, just anytime I kind of walk into a track meet, head's kind of on a swivel, but it's sometimes it's difficult to think about like a video and also focus on a race
Yeah.
because like obviously you ran track. A race is it's stressful. It's like the nerves are flying.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard to think about, okay, I need to get this shot while I'm warming up, but you're like warming up. And I'm sure as a film major too, you know how long sometimes it can take to
Oh,
set
yeah.
up a shot, or like you can burn like 30 minutes just trying to take one shot without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that you kind of don't have the luxury of when you're like warming up. Like you race at this time, so it is kind of stressful to try to balance taking videos, especially on race day, while you're trying to lock in and get ready for your race.
Hmm.
So that is the reason I don't film. I haven't been able to film every single race. Makes it a lot easier when you can pass off the camera to someone.
Yeah.
But again, I don't always have that luxury. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like something that I really wanted to know myself, like, because I'm watching your videos, right? And then you're highlighting your whole entire experience. But it's actually really nice that you said that, like, you kind of have that like kind of way of turning off the camera and being like, oh, I need to focus on this race. And
Yeah.
that's what comes first because you are a student athlete first. And
Yep.
but take me through your visions behind your videos. Are you constantly looking at other channels or other films to gain inspiration? Talk me in terms of, this is for me, but I just want curious.
Yeah, of course. I'm yeah, I'm obviously watching other videos, other channels. I think one of the main reasons I got into starting to film YouTube videos were I'd probably say two main channels, Brock Kelly and Adam Wood. Um, I thought they both put out pretty quality videos, and in all honesty, I'm a pretty competitive guy. I saw them putting out videos and I'm like, I can do better than that.
I love
And then
that.
I
So
started recording videos.
athletic.
But I still no, I still love both their content. Uh, and then outside of that, I definitely look a lot of other places for inspiration throughout the community. I mean, I've got some friends that I've met here that I can go and bounce ideas off of them.
Mhm.
And I've also really been liking, and it's a way I want to pivot my content a little bit in the future. You kind of caught me at a strange time because I mean the season's ending soon. So I can't do meat vlogs and that kind of staple that I've had.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to try to go into more like explorative and like challenge content where like testing Temu running products, stuff like that that's a little bit more mainstream and also will help grow my audience beyond runners because that was my ultimate goal when I started YouTube was to grow my audience beyond just runners and try to bring more eyes to track and field.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you said that your goal was before like getting more eyes on the track and field sport, but what
Mhm.
is your goal now and for your channel?
I would say that's still my goal whenever I come back to it. But now, I mean, I want 100K. I want that plaque.
Mhm.
Um, I want to put out the best content that I can, and I really want to put out a short film. I really want to do that. I just have to get it done.
That's
But
amazing. And will that
I'm
short film
busy.
kind of like go into like the running aspect? Do you have any ideas on that?
I have a script. I've scripted it out. It's all I have a script. I have a shot list. I just have to do it. Yeah, I kind of that's where I come to an impasse is essentially this is also my income. Like making content is how I'm able to stay afloat financially right now. And um you come to like an impasse where if I take all of my focus off of putting out content so that I can make a short film, I get the luxury of I just put out a short film and I'm really happy and proud of it, but I also didn't bring in any income for a month.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, if I were this script that I wrote is so you always start to look at things that like how could I repurpose this creative venture to also monetize it. And that's where you kind of come to an impasse is yes, this short film has to do with track, but it's also very creatively inclined and it's trying to balance the two so that I could still publish it on my main page and people would still enjoy it and I can still hopefully get a little bit of revenue off of it, but also put the effort into that project that I've been trying to put effort into. But like if I had no limitations, like I think I'd go make a horror short or a scary short film because I find that really engaging and it's really fun to set up the shots for that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, you're kind of now transitioning or now learning to be more of a content creator and kind of learning the side of what content creating is all about, right? And we have
Mhm.
like now you're kind of thinking of like what do others want, to see and stuff like that, and how can I promote my stuff out there more? And that's really, something that we the audience don't really understand is that, we're making
Yeah.
content for you guys. We're making content for people to learn, people to grow, and people to get inspired by. But I want to take this back on the your running and track career, and I wanted to
Okay.
go into your actual career here at LSU, and of course you're a sophomore here at sophomore here. Uh,
Yeah, I'm a sophomore.
yeah, and let's go on to why did you want to choose LSU over other colleges? Can you tell me about your decision and your time during your high school and what led you into making the decision?
Yeah. I first got real interest in high school after my junior season, kind of. That was when I ran 155 in the 800, and that was when I started getting some emails and stuff like that. I emailed probably 200 plus schools.
Mhm.
I took official visits to three, and then I took unofficial visits to a couple others. The reason I chose LSU out of all of those was, in all honesty, the facilities. I had three pretty big things on my list. One was I wanted warmth. I wanted to get out of um, Kansas City because it get cold there. I wanted somewhere where it was warm year round, so I checked that box. I wanted a Nike school, um, checked that box, and then the facilities were just way too good to pass up. Um, and
Mhm.
that was the main part that separated LSU from all the other schools
Yeah.
were the facilities.
Yeah, nice. And you know, I saw that from your previous blog that you were, here at Long Beach because I attended Cal State Long Beach, and I wanted to talk more about
Yeah.
your experience, like, has been like at LBSU. We have the Brian Clay Invitational, as you did mention, and you did say that that was like one of the biggest invitationals that you ever went to. Can you tell me more about that experience here?
Yeah, we went to Long Beach, and I should apologize. I posted on my story that it was like I think I said California California State Long Beach instead of Long Beach State.
It's all good. It's all good.
I
People,
had probably
yeah.
50 people swipe up and tell me that I was wrong, and I was like, sorry. But yeah, we went to Long Beach for spring break. We have a nice little spring break trip where we spend about a week somewhere, and then we race at the end of the week. So I ran the 800 there, and then what you were mentioning was Brian Clay. And yeah, this was my second year going to Brian Clay. Both years it claimed me as a victim. I did not have great races. Both years, my worst race of the season were at Brian Clay, which is not fun to fly all that way out and not run well. But this year is kind of out of my control. I got sick kind of right beforehand, and yeah, it is a really really fun race to get to be a part of though because um, it's it's really like the who's who of distance running. Like every distance runner in the nation goes there. I think there were 750 entries into the men's 1500 alone.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome to just get to walk out there and like I saw my boy Nico. As like he was my host back when I visited Nebraska, and now he's on YouTube too.
Yeah.
And then like I just you there's all these amazing people out there. You're just walking down the track and you're like, oh, that's so and so, that's whoever, and that's probably the coolest part of that meet. A lot of people say it's like Boston, but outdoors.
Interesting. It's interesting that people say that like it's like Boston. I didn't know that, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, tell me more about reflecting on your season and reflecting on what you want to see on your upcoming season, for next year. What is something
Yeah.
that you are trying to build, like I know you said that, it was a tough race. What is something that I also wanted to ask is like you do that, you know, that maybe is like more of less like making you more motivated? Because I know burnout is a big thing in this sport, in any sport.
Um, this season so far has not gone quite how I wanted it to. I I have the future goal of sub 4 mile. Obviously, that's on everybody's checklist. Sub 4 mile, 3:43, 1500. Those are hand in hand. But yeah, this season the content has been tapering off a little bit because the season's not quite going how I wanted it to go, and I'm having to shift my focus and really try to lock in. Um, you mentioned how how I lock in. Is that what you were asking? I don't know if
Yes.
I already
So
followed the question.
my question, let me rephrase it, was like saying that you are also in this kind of spotlight of making content, and then you also are trying to get that sub four, and then you're also like having not so well of a good race. How is that? I know it affects you, mentally, but like, how do you gain that motivation? How do you just, like I said, lock in, or even just remind yourself like, this is what I'm here to do, and I want to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
All honesty, that's something I'm still kind of figuring out. Again, that's why the content's been kind of fading off lately because I was really strong with it through like February, March, and then I started really racing outdoors and I realized I'm not quite where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to put the race together yet. And it's been just a constant battle in my head when racing that I realized I need to focus back on it again for the rest of my season.
Yeah, and that's really important for us to know, And,
Yeah.
what do you think it takes for any athlete to succeed in their sport, especially younger athletes who might be watching this?
I've always said consistency. Just it's a lot better to have like every single day be a good 80% day, 70, 80% um perfect than to have a day that's like 110% and then the next day is like 10%. It's much better just you'll just linearly progress like that instead of going oop, oop, like just up and down. That's what I've always thought. And I've
Mhm.
always thought that like if every single thing that you do is either a good decision or a bad decision, if more than 50% of the time you're taking the good decisions, you're going to improve.
Yeah,
And you just kind of, I guess, kind of approach it like that.
that's really inspirational. And yeah, I was like always thinking, like here you have this career and you're balancing so much on your plate, right? And for the athletes who are watching, the younger athletes, it's no now it's really important for them to know that it's your mental health comes first, right? And
Mhm.
what was like, I wanted to go back to this. I know the questions are kind of going everywhere.
No, you're good.
This is like actually one of my first interviews, and
You're
I
all good. This is one of mine too.
yeah, but take me back on your YouTube channel. What was the hardest part about creating content?
Um, didn't want to be judged. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's scary to put yourself out there sometimes. And yeah, it definitely was scared to be judged.
And does that still come to your head when you're creating this content?
More or less, yes, but I've become a lot more lenient and a lot more open to just putting myself out there. It's less if I want to be judged on like by people and more I need to watch what I say to be judged by like like if LSU sees my video, like what are they gonna think of it? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So you're like a role model now, or less, more or less,
A little
kind of.
bit,
Yeah.
a little that's scary.
Have like
Yeah,
a
I guess a little
following.
bit.
Do you ever have like kids coming up to you and be like, "Oh, that's Trenton Sandler," at your event meets and whatnot?
Occasionally, yeah, at track meets. It's especially if I go to a high school track meet. If I like LSU hosts a bunch of high school track meets, and if I step foot outside my apartment and there's a bunch of high schoolers, like I live literally right across the street from the track. If I step foot outside my apartment, it's like
Yeah. And they
it's a
know.
little,
Yeah.
it's yeah. It might just be because we're in Louisiana,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. And I have some questions actually that I reached out to my own high school track and field team, because
Okay.
they're a big fan of you too.
That's
And I
awesome.
have four questions from them. So one of the
Okay.
questions was, what made you want to start track? If you had any setbacks transitioning from your soccer career to track?
I started track because it was actually in seventh grade because it was the only sport we were allowed to do. They thought it was too dangerous to play football or to do basketball or anything else in seventh grade. And so all my friends ran track. I did track. I mostly did like long jump and high jump and just messed around and hung out with my friends. But yeah, it was that. And then I started running track to stay in shape for soccer. And transitioning from soccer to track, I'd probably just say more like the like transitioning to friends was the hardest part, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because soccer, you're so tight with all of the people that are on the team, and it's we're all hanging out before and after practice. And then when I started kind of switching to track, it was different people that I was hanging out with before and after practice, and eventually that drifted into my life, where I had very different friends when my focus was on track versus when my focus was on soccer.
Nice. And another question we had was, what do you do when you get shin splints?
Uh, Suck it up.
Yes.
There's not a ton you can do. If it's a constant problem, you can figure out what's wrong with your running form to that's giving you shin splints. I'm pretty sure if your knees cave in, I'm not an expert yet. I'm still in school, but I'm pretty sure that if your knees are kind of caving in, then you're putting more pressure on the insides of your shins, and that can be a cause of shin splints. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta suck it up.
Yes, suck it up.
And and if but do be careful because if it starts to hurt in a pinpointed position, that might be a stress fracture, and you want to be careful of that.
Your kinesiology head coming in. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I've had two stress fractures, and they're not fun, so I would avoid those.
Yeah. The next question is, how do you keep your pace, especially for a beginner runner, especially runners just in general? Because I know this one's coming from a beginner. I think it's his first year as a distance athlete, and he wants just to ask you that.
Okay. I think that the best thing that you can do if you're just getting started in running is, well, your paces are going to be very, very different from upper like other athletics. Like our easy pace is like 7 minutes per mile or so, but our heart rates are all like 130s around that range. So that makes sense for it to be our easy pace. If you're just getting started running, don't try to go hang with the guys that are going 7 minutes a mile because you're gonna get it's gonna be that's gonna be too fast for you. You're gonna start touching the threshold, that kind of stuff. I think that the biggest advice that you can give if you can't even just hold a pace like a 8, 9, 10 minute mile pace, the best advice is to start with walk jogging. So like you walk for a minute 30, jog for 30 seconds, and then slowly transition that until you're just, and every week or so, yeah, just slowly bump it up until you're just running for however long. But it
Yeah.
all comes with time. It all comes with getting more fit and more volume, and the more you run, the more you learn about running.
Yeah, thank you. And last question is, what is one moment that you constantly think of till this day? What are you pushed by to the most?
It's a tough one. Um, I don't know if I can pinpoint a single moment right now. Um, I think that moment's probably yet to come.
Yeah, I love that.
Uh, yeah, that's all I can really think of. That moment's probably yet to come. I've had bad races. We've all had bad races. It's not something I really think about that is still haunting me to this day. But Yeah, I can't think of any specific moments, at least not really in the sport.
Amazing. And that's something that you're still a sophomore here at LSU and you're gonna, just we're just gonna see you progress and grow from there on, right? That's what we all always want to see from as an athlete and stuff like that. And to the rapid fire that I wanted to ask you about,
For sure,
and then we could leave it off there. But yeah.
for
So
sure.
we're in rapid fire questions. What is your go-to
Okay.
snack before a meet?
Bagel.
Hmm. Who are you motivated by? Who would you say is one athlete that stands out to you?
Shoot. I should have been prepared for this. Um, Track athletes lately, Jakob. Jakob.
And what is your hype song?
Oh, I've got a lot. I should have been prepared for this. Give me, uh, I have a lot. Anything by Meek Mill.
Awesome. And socks in spice or no socks?
No socks.
You- And last but not least, your track red flag.
Um, ooh, if people are on their phone and the workout is still going on,
Hmm.
like if you're still at practice and you're on your phone, I think that's a soccer habit because you can't be on your phone at soccer practice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know a lot of people that like if we have a really long rest between reps, they might get on their phone, or if we between the workout and the cool down, they get on their phone, and I'm just like
It gets to you,
pet
right?
peeve,
It really
pet
does.
peeve. Yeah, of
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Trin,
course.
for allowing me to interview you. This is definitely gonna, I definitely wanted to hear more about, you as a person and you as an athlete and a content creator. So thank you so much.